In the 6th century of the Common Era, the world was fractured. Powerful civilizations struggled for dominance, while distant lands remained beyond their control. Two powerful empires ruled the age. For generations, they fought exhausting wars that reshaped the world around them. Between these rival powers lay a vast and mysterious land, the Arabian Peninsula, a harsh desert of endless sands, ancient tribes, and sacred traditions.
Across this land, camel caravans carried spices, silk, and precious goods. Trade routes connected distant civilizations, and travelers crossed the desert guided only by stars and memory.
At the heart of these routes stood a city unlike any other, Mecca, a thriving center of commerce and a sacred sanctuary known throughout Arabia.
At the center of the city stood the Kaaba, a revered stone sanctuary visited by tribes from across the desert. Stood hundreds of idols representing the many beliefs of Arabia. It was into this world, tribal, mercantile, and fiercely proud, that a child would be born. Muhammad, son of Abdullah.
The year was around 570 of the Common Era, a year remembered in Arabian history as the Year of the Elephant. And from this desert city would emerge a message that would one day transform the world.
Muhammad's early life was defined by loss. His father Abdullah died before his birth, and his mother Amina bint Wahab passed away when he was only 6 years old. Orphaned and vulnerable, the young boy was first taken in by his grandfather Abdul Muttalib. But when the elder passed away, his care then fell to his uncle Abu Talib. Following the custom of Meccan families, the young Muhammad was sent to live in the desert with a Bedouin foster family. His foster mother, Halima al-Sadiya, cared for him during his earliest years. The desert shaped him. Here he learned the purity of classical Arabic and the powerful oral traditions that preserved the history of Arabia. As a young man, Muhammad worked as a shepherd. In Islamic tradition, many prophets are said to have shared this humble beginning.
Soon he entered the world of trade. He joined caravans traveling northward across the desert toward Syria. Among the people of Mecca, his reputation grew. Al-Amin, the trustworthy, peace be upon you. They called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy.
His reputation reached Khadija bint Khuwaylid, a wealthy merchant and respected widow. She employed him to lead her caravans and soon grew deeply impressed by his integrity. She proposed marriage. Muhammad accepted. He was 25 years old and she was around 40. Their partnership would become one of the most important in early Islamic history.
By his late 30s, Muhammad had developed a habit of spiritual retreat. He would leave the city of Mecca and travel into the mountains, seeking solitude in a small cave known as Hira. Inside the cave, he would spend days in reflection, fasting, praying, and contemplating the moral struggles of his society.
Then in the year 610 CE, during the month of Ramadan, something extraordinary happened. According to Islamic tradition, Muhammad was visited by the angel Gabriel. The angel commanded him, "Iqra," recite. Then came the first words of what would become the Quran. "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq." Recite in the name of your Lord who created. Shaken and overwhelmed, Muhammad descended the mountain in deep distress. Be at peace, my love. I am here to comfort you.
The visions, they are overwhelming. You are safe with me. Let this cloak shield you.
She then brought him to her cousin, Waraka ibn Nawfal, a learned scholar of earlier scriptures.
The visitor was the same messenger sent to Moses.
That moment in the cave marked the beginning of a mission that would continue for 23 years. A message that would transform Arabia and eventually the world. In the earliest years, Muhammad's message spread quietly. His preaching was private, shared only with those he trusted most. The first people to accept the message were those closest to him: his young cousin Ali ibn Abi Talib, his adopted son Zayd ibn Haritha, and his close friend Abu Bakr. The center of the message was one powerful idea: Tawheed, the absolute rejection of idols, justice for the oppressed, and belief in a final day of judgment.
This message is dangerous to our wealth. Our entire economy depends on the pilgrimage. Monotheism threatens our very way of life.
Opposition soon turned into persecution. Many early Muslims, especially those without tribal protection, were beaten, tortured, and humiliated. Among them was Bilal ibn Rabah, an Abyssinian slave. He was dragged into the desert and tortured beneath the scorching sun. Eventually, Abu Bakr purchased his freedom. By the year 615 CE, persecution had become unbearable. A group of Muslims migrate across the Red Sea to the Christian kingdom of Aksum. There they were welcomed and protected by the just ruler Najashi. Back in Mecca, the Quraysh imposed a harsh boycott. For nearly 3 years, Muslims and their allies were cut off from trade, food, and social life. Then came the year 619 CE, remembered as the year of grief. Within months, Muhammad lost both his beloved wife Khadija bint Khuwaylid and his protective uncle Abu Talib. After years of persecution in Mecca, the small Muslim community faced an uncertain future. Yet beyond the desert, another city was beginning to listen. Delegations from the oasis city of Medina, then known as Yathrib, secretly met Muhammad during pilgrimage seasons. They pledged loyalty and invited him to bring his message to their city. With persecution intensifying, Muhammad instructed his followers to migrate quietly to Yathrib. One by one, families began leaving their homes behind.
Alarmed by the growing movement, leaders of the Quraysh gathered and made a dangerous decision.
Muhammad's movement grows. We must act before he leaves Mecca.
Yes, assassination is already will be done. But the plan failed. Under the cover of night, Muhammad quietly left his home with his closest companion, Abu Bakr. Their journey toward Medina had begun. For 3 days they hid in the cave of Thor, as search parties combed the desert. According to tradition, a spider spun a web across the cave entrance, convincing their pursuers no one had entered.
After the danger passed, the two travelers continued their long journey across the Arabian desert. It was a migration that would change the course of history. When Muhammad finally arrived in Medina, the people welcomed him with joy. For the first time, the Muslim community had a place to live freely. This migration, known as the Hijra, became one of the most important moments in Islamic history. So important that it marks the beginning of the Islamic calendar. By the year 622 CE, the situation in Mecca had become impossible. Years of persecution had pushed the small Muslim community to the brink. But hope arrived from the oasis city of Yathrib. There, representatives secretly pledged their loyalty to Muhammad in agreements known as the Pledges of Aqaba. The migration, known as the Hijra, soon began. One by one, Muslims quietly left Mecca, traveling north toward safety. But the journey was not without danger. Leaders of the Quraysh sent men to hunt down Muhammad before he could escape.
To evade their pursuers, Muhammad and his companion Abu Bakr hid for 3 days in the cave of Thawr. According to tradition, a spider spun a web across the cave entrance, misleading the searchers.
In Medina, Muhammad's role expanded. He was no longer only a preacher, he had become a community leader and statesman.
He drafted a political agreement known as the Constitution of Medina. It established cooperation between Muslim immigrants, the local helpers known as the Ansar, and the Jewish tribes of the city. Many historians consider it one of the earliest written constitutional frameworks in recorded history. It defined a new political community based on shared responsibility and mutual protection. Life in Medina was far from peaceful. The leaders of Mecca saw the growing Muslim community not simply as a religious movement, but as a political and military threat. In 624 CE, the two sides met in the first major battle, the Battle of Badr. A Muslim force of just over 300 men faced nearly 1,000 Meccan fighters. For the Muslim community, Badr was more than a victory. It confirmed their survival and signaled the rise of a new power in Arabia. The following year brought a harsh reversal. At the Battle of Uhud, a Meccan army attacked Medina seeking revenge. Early success quickly turned to chaos. When some archers abandoned their defensive positions, the Meccan cavalry struck from behind. Many Muslims were killed, including the Prophet's uncle Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib. 2 years later, a massive coalition army marched toward Medina. Facing overwhelming numbers, the Muslims adopted a new defensive tactic, digging a trench around the city. 2 years later, a massive coalition army marched toward Medina. Facing overwhelming numbers, the Muslims adopted a new defensive tactic, digging a trench around the city. Unable to cross the trench and facing harsh desert weather,
the coalition forces eventually withdrew. The Battle of the Trench marked the end of Meccan military dominance. Between battles, Muhammad also pursued diplomacy. Letters were sent to rulers beyond Arabia, including the emperors of Byzantine Empire, Sasanian Empire, and the king of Aksum. In 628 CE, Muhammad and his followers set out peacefully toward Mecca to perform pilgrimage. At a place called Hudaybiyah, negotiations produced a historic truce, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Though some Muslims initially viewed the treaty as unfavorable, it granted the community legitimacy and stability. The Quran itself later described it as a clear victory.
The peace is shattered. The Quraysh have torn the treaty. The balance of power has shifted.
Muhammad mobilized the largest force Arabia had yet seen, nearly 10,000 followers. They marched toward Mecca, the city that had once driven them out. But the march did not end in a great battle. Mecca surrendered with minimal resistance. Standing before the people of Mecca, Muhammad asked a question that history would remember.
What do you think I will do with you? You will show mercy. You are a noble brother.
The son of a noble brother.
Go, you are free.
His reply became one of the most famous statements of forgiveness in history.
Soon after, the idols surrounding the Kaaba were removed, and the sanctuary was rededicated to the worship of one God. This event, known as the Conquest of Mecca, transformed the political and religious landscape of Arabia. In the year 632 CE, Muhammad performed what would become his only complete pilgrimage. It is remembered in history as the Farewell Pilgrimage. On the plain of Mount Arafat, before a crowd estimated at 100,000 people, he delivered what became known as the Farewell Sermon. In this sermon, he spoke about justice, dignity, and responsibility. He declared the sanctity of human life, the prohibition of exploitation, and the rights and responsibilities within society. No Arab is superior to a non-Arab, and no non-Arab is superior to an Arab. No white person over a black person, nor a black person over a white, except through piety and righteous action.
Have I delivered the message? Yes! Then let those who are present convey it to those who are absent.
After returning to Medina, Muhammad soon fell ill.
On the 12th day of Rabi al-Awwal, around June, it used to be his wife Aisha bint Latifah, who was approximately 63 years old. In just 23 years of prophecy, Muhammad transformed a fragmented region into a unified spiritual community. His message would continue to shape civilizations for centuries.
The passing of Muhammad did not end the movement he began. In many ways, it marked the beginning of something far greater. Within a century, a civilization shaped by his message stretched from the Atlantic coast to the borders of China and the Indian subcontinent. This was not only expansion by force, but the spread of ideas, law, knowledge, spirituality, and culture. The Quran was preserved and compiled under Abu Bakr, and later standardized under Uthman ibn Affan. It remains the most widely memorized book in human history. Alongside it, the Hadith literature, the recorded sayings and actions of the Prophet, became a foundation for law, ethics, and daily life. Across centuries, his life has been studied by historians and thinkers around the world, including scholars such as W. Montgomery Watt, Karen Armstrong, and Tariq Ramadan. Identify as Muslim, all tracing their faith back to a single message delivered in the deserts of Arabia over 14 centuries ago. From an orphan in Mecca to one of the most influential figures in human history, his legacy continues in faith, in practice, and in the lives of billions. His life was not one of comfort, nor of conquest for its own sake. It was a life of transformation, personal, communal, and civilization.
a message rooted in the belief that every human being carries dignity, that justice is a sacred responsibility, and that the search for truth is an act of worship. Whether seen through the lens of faith or through the study of history, the life of Muhammad ibn Abdullah remains a story that shaped and continues to shape the world we live in today.
In the silence of the desert, a timeless command endures.
Convey the message.
Let this be the echo that carries across time.